Starting August 17th, the way you buy and sell real estate is going to change forever. As a result of the settlement between the National Association of Realtors and the plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit, you're going to see significant changes when you buy and sell a home this fall. And one of the most significant changes you'll see is that commissions will no longer be advertised in the MLS. What does that mean? Understand, commissions have been and always will be negotiable. Now, before the settlement, when a homeowner wanted to hire an agent to help them sell their home, they would enter into a contract. This contract is known as a listing agreement. The agent who listed the home works on behalf of a real estate broker, and in the contract, they would agree to several things. Number one, the seller and the real estate broker would agree to a commission. Two, the seller and the real estate broker would agree to when the listing will start and when the listing will end. And the third thing is the seller and the real estate broker would agree to a listing price. Now, the seller, by signing this agreement, would agree to let the agent who is working on behalf of a broker to market the home to the public. Now, you cannot sell a home without a listing agreement in place. The best way to market a home is to list the home on the MLS. Now, the MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service, and the MLS is a database of all the homes for sale. Agents and brokers use the MLS as a way to market the home to all of the agents and brokers who are members of that MLS. This means if a home was listed with another firm, I could bring my buyers to that particular property. This benefits both the buyer and the seller. The buyer is able to see all of the homes listed for sale, and the seller could potentially get more money because the seller got more exposure to all of the potential buyers. Before August 17th, when a seller listed a home, the listing broker agreed to share a portion of the listing commission with a buyer's agent's broker. This cooperating commission, or payout, was advertised in the MLS. Now, what did this actually look like? Let's say a seller listed their home for sale at 1234 Main Street with ABC Realty. ABC Realty charged the seller, let's just say, a 5% commission. Commissions are negotiable, and this is just simply an example. On the MLS, ABC Realty would advertise a cooperating commission of, let's say, 2.5%. Let's say I work at Nebraska Realty and my buyer client wanted to purchase 1234 Main Street. I would assist my client, write the contract, help negotiate the deal, help them through the escrow process, and when it closed, ABC Realty would pay 2.5% of the gross sales price to my broker, Nebraska Realty. Let's put some numbers behind this example. Let's say the home sold for $300,000. At closing, ABC Realty would pay Nebraska Realty 2.5% of the sales price. 2.5% of $300,000 would be $7,500. Out of that 2.5%, or $7,500, my broker would share a portion of the $7,500 with me. Now, this is called an agent's split. For example, let's just say the split was 75-25. As an agent, I would receive $5,625, and the broker would receive or keep $1,875. Splits can vary from agent to agent. Not every agent is on the same split. Just as an aside, when an agent is employed by a broker, the agent is an independent contractor. They're not paid hourly. Agents are not on a salary. Real estate agents are only paid if a home closes. Real estate agents are responsible for paying their own taxes, and individual agents are responsible for paying their own health insurance. It may seem like an agent makes a ton of money. However, when a new agent enters the real estate business, 75% of new agents don't make it past their second year. And the other thing, agents are responsible for their own marketing expenses. Starting on August 17th, the cooperating commission will not be advertised in the MLS. Now, does that mean that cooperating commission is going away? No. Sellers can still offer a cooperating commission, just cannot be advertised on the MLS. Sellers always had this option of doing this. In fact, a seller could always sell by owner and not pay any commission at all. The lawsuit started because sellers felt that the buyer should pay their own agent. Now, on the surface, this does seem to have some merit. However, when you look at the commission as a way to incentivize a buyer's agent, it makes sense that the seller would offer a buyer agent commission. That leads to the second big change. Buyers will now have to sign a buyer agent agreement before touring a property. Starting August 17th, before you tour a property with an agent, you will need to have a signed buyer agency agreement in place. This is a contract between the buyer and the buyer's agent. This will have to have a start date and an ending date. And it will also need to stipulate the amount of compensation due to the buyer's agent if the buyer enters into a contract to purchase a home. For example, let's say the buyer and the buyer's agent agree to a commission of 2.5% of the gross sales price. Again, this is just an example. There are no set commissions. Now, here are a few scenarios. The first scenario, let's say the seller is offering a 2.5% cooperating commission. No worries, the seller is offering the agreed amount. The seller pays the buyer's agent and everybody's happy. The second scenario, let's say the seller is offering a 2% cooperating commission. Now the buyer would be responsible for covering the difference. In this case, the buyer would have to come out of pocket and make up the difference. This would cause the buyer to pay more out of pocket at closing. The third scenario, let's say the seller is offering a 3% cooperating commission. However, the buyer and the buyer's agent have a signed contract where they previously agreed to a 2.5% payout. In this case, the agent cannot accept a payout that is higher than what was previously agreed. Many agents are not going to be very happy about that. And here's the fourth scenario. Let's say the seller is not offering a cooperating commission. The buyer would then have to pay the buyer's agent fee themselves. That means the buyer would have to bring even more money to the closing table. Remember, everything is negotiable. Even if the seller is not offering a cooperating commission, nothing is stopping you as a buyer of writing a contract and asking the seller for a seller concession. This concession can be used to pay your buyer's agent. As a buyer, you should ask your agent to find out if the seller is offering compensation. This will not be on the MLS. However, it may be on the website of the broker who has the listing. This information is important for you to know if you might have to pay your agent out of pocket or not. What does this mean if you're purchasing a home? First, be sure to read and clearly understand what you are agreeing to before you sign anything. 2, don't be afraid to ask questions. One of the first questions you should ask is for a copy of the buyer-broker agreement so you have time to read it before signing. This will allow you to develop a list of questions. You don't want to be the person to sign something only to find out you're stuck later on. 3, understand when the contract starts and when the contract ends. Number 4, be sure to vet your agent. You want a competent agent who understands the home buying process. Not all agents are created equal. Speaking of agents, if you're looking for a great agent, feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description below, and I belong to a network of agents from across the country, and I can assist you in finding an agent in your area. Number 5, what about going directly through the listing agent? That certainly might be one option, but it may not be the best option. I truly believe as a buyer, your best agent is to have your own representation. For example, if you went to court, wouldn't you want your own legal team? Absolutely. Would you save money by going directly to the listing agent? Not necessarily. Buying a home is a complicated process, and there's a lot of moving parts. And here's the challenge. Some buyers don't know what they don't know, or some buyers have a false sense of knowing more than what they actually know, and that's actually more dangerous. What about home prices? Does this mean home prices are coming down? No. Think about it. Do for sale by owners lower their price because they're not paying an agent? Not at all. In fact, some for sale by owners actually think their home is worth more and they're more unrealistic about the price. Does this mean more sellers may choose not to pay a buyer's agent? Perhaps, but they already have this option. Most sellers want the most amount of money the market will bear. Most savvy sellers will understand the value of offering compensation to a buyer's agent. Some of these changes are needed, and with any change, there's going to be a period of adjustment. So, are buyer's agents going away? I don't think so. Another important consideration if you're a buyer is, what if you sign the buyer broker agreement and you're not happy with your level of service from your agent? Now, that's a great question, and you should discuss this before you sign the agreement. In some cases, it's going to depend. For example, let's say a buyer tours a home with an agent and then decides to fire their agent and work directly with the listing agent in order to save money. In a case like that, you may not be able to cancel the contract. Or let's say you're working with an agent and they're not making themselves available to tour properties. Now, in a case like that, there may be reason to cancel because you might be missing opportunities. Canceling might come down to the individual situation. If you enter into a contract and if you're having difficulties, you might want to ask to speak with the agent's broker or manager and then have that discussion. It's also important to note that if you're in a contract with an agent, it is a contract. You are contractually obligated to work with that agent. You can't just arbitrarily decide to work with another agent. If you do, you could be at risk to still compensate that original agent. Know what you sign and get a copy of what you have signed. Now, there could be a case where both the agent and the buyer mutually agree to terminate the contract and decide that it just wasn't a good fit. I think buyers are going to have to start shopping for their agent well in advance of shopping for a home. Gone are the days of seeing a home online and contacting one of the agents who paid one of the large search portals for the ability to advertise for a certain zip code. Overall, I think some of the changes are good and some just made the process more confusing. For some buyers, I think the vast majority are completely unaware of these upcoming changes. Unfortunately, I think some buyers will not even realize or understand that they just signed something blindly, and then they're going to be in shock when they have to bring additional funds to closing to pay their agent.